Ooh boy. Big News Wednesday's here. In the media, like a boring no news day is supposed to be like the thing that you're like most worried about, because then what do you talk about? But honestly, Sharon, I'd go for one or two of not terrible and crazy things. But anyway, you're here. Sharon, always good to have you here for Big News Wednesday. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I just love the theme music. It's almost hypes me up as much as They Not Like Us and Kendrick Lamar. It just gets me going for Big News Wednesday. And so I love it.
Well, if it's like Kendrick Lamar, then nobody can understand what the theme music is saying, and only 0.5% of the country even knows who the theme song
Give it time. Give it time.
Oh my God. We almost did more of that because the meltdown lasted for 2 solid days.
Yeah.
I will never understand people's bizarre, pathetic psychological need to imply that something that they don't like, actually nobody likes. That's not true at all. Like, you can dislike something passionately and still understand that other people do. I don't listen to Kendrick Lamar because I don't listen to most music.
Sure.
But I don't pretend that nobody knows who he is. There are things that I absolutely despise. I don't like Logan Paul literally at all. Lots of people love him. They listen to his podcast. Podcast's super popular. Like, those two things are not actually related to each other. And so I'll never understand that. Full-grown men, or at least boys who kept on going and now look from a distance like men, asserting that everything they don't personally appreciate, particularly if it comes from a racial group they're not part of, has no value whatsoever. Nobody actually likes it.
Imagine that.
So anyway, as little as I like that, the reason I'm going on a mini rant about this is because I don't really want to talk about the news at all today. So, but we're going to, because it's important. So thank you, Sharon, for being here and helping face the day with us.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. Okay, everybody, we're gonna talk about the news. Send us your likes, your tweets, your super chats, all that stuff. Do the thing on the YouTube, the things in the messages. You might get a Blue Apron gift card. I'm gonna really try this time to find one. I keep forgetting recently. But anyway, and people are asking when I'm gonna update the intro. Maybe I just won't. Maybe we just won't update the intro until he's not president anymore, as a silent act of protest. We won't be allowed in the press briefings. We'll be banned like the AP, but maybe I'll do that. Anyway, we do have a lot to talk about, so we should probably get into it. Everybody, prepare yourself. We're starting with this.
We want to weed out the corruption, and it seems hard to believe that a judge could say, we don't want you to do that. Well, so maybe we have to look at the judges, because that's very serious. I think it's a very serious violation.
Okay, so this is the sort of stuff that Donald Trump just says and has said for years. And so on some level, well, can we really be surprised that he doesn't like a judge doing what their job is? So he's threatening them. Let's be very clear, that's what he's doing there. He's saying, if you rule against me, no matter how clear it is that you have to, that you're obligated to by the law, by the Constitution, by precedent, maybe we need to look into you. Maybe you're the one who's committed a serious violation of existing and not supporting me. Even if it's, in some cases it might be Democrat appointed judges, in some cases it might be Reagan appointed judges. In some cases, in these recent cases, it's been judges he himself chose. And yet I guess they became the deep state as soon as he put them in. And so, look, that's obviously scary. It's scary on 2 levels. One, when they actually start impeaching or removing or locking up judges who disagree with them, that's obviously very scary. That's yet another line we should never cross, but we're crossing them every day. But he doesn't even have to do that, of course, does he? For this to be incredibly scary and for this to be a constitutional crisis. Because now, when judges consider ruling against him, they now have to decide, do I want my name to go on a list? Do I want the man who controls Twitter to tweet individually about me and do a weird press conference, as we'll get to? Do I want that? In the same way that we now know the Supreme Court is considering, like, where can we go against Trump? Because there's other areas where, like, he's definitely breaking the law or violating the Constitution. But if we go against him and he doesn't comply, then I guess the legitimacy that our entire thing relies on will be broken. So we really shouldn't go against him, even though the law's on our side. All of this we're deep into constitutional crisis territory already, and we're just a couple weeks in. But I want you to know that it's not just Donald Trump and Republicans, and we'll get to them too, that are making this case that judges are an inconvenience that should probably be exterminated. He's also sending out what passes for one of his lawyers.
I thought the lawfare was going to stop when we got in here and won in November 5th in a sweeping mandate from the 77 million Americans that were tired of the last administration, but it has not. All we've seen is these radical left judges who maybe should have run for president themselves if they wanted to act like a president, trying to take action against DOGE, against Bessent, a man that was confirmed as Secretary of the Treasury, who answered tough questions, who went through the vetting process, who was appointed and confirmed, and now he can't do his job. That's called a violation of something I'd like to call the separation of powers. It's a really novel idea, but our founding fathers created a document, the Constitution. There's a separation of powers for a reason. The executive branch is the ultimate authority on federal issues, and we have rogue judges who are trying to stop members like DOGE team, Bessent, from doing their job.
Yeah, so there's a lot of issues there. First of all, the Bessent thing she's talking about, it never applied to Bessent. She's either just lying or honestly, like she could just be wrong. Like she's obviously she doesn't understand the Constitution. She doesn't understand law. So I'm not gonna just go out there and say she's lying because she doesn't really know what she's talking about in general. And so she also said the president is the ultimate authority on federal matters. That's not even the argument the other guys in your group are making. They're saying that the ultimate authority for stuff that the executive branch is supposed to do. You're just like, no, the whole federal government, the entire thing. Where exactly do you think Congress works? Minnesota? They're part of the federal government. That's what the three branches, they all are. My God, that you would put someone on TV like this who doesn't know the most basic stuff that any person applying for US citizenship needs to know. But regardless of the lies, regardless of the ignorance, the point here is Donald Trump gets to decide, and the judges have nothing to say about that, even though they, of course, never held anything resembling this position while Joe Biden was president. The judges had an obligation when he was president to step in. Now they need to sit down and shut up. But also, Congress doesn't even have a role. The incredibly friendly Congress that you can barely see in the frame of a shot of Trump licking his boots, they don't even get a say. He doesn't even have to talk to them, even though they do anything he says at this point. And so all of this should be really worrying. Now we're gonna get to other people weighing in on this, but Sharon, this has been sort of the story of the last week, that the one remaining check on Trump's insane executive orders, nullifying parts of the Constitution and stuff like that. They're trying to shut that down too. And what do you make of it?
Well, they're the last stance, the courts, because everybody else seems to be giving up freely. Congress saying, we agree to be irrelevant. I think that this is what they planned. He sure hit the ground running. Last time, as it's been said, he didn't quite know what the job entailed, and so he didn't quite know how to be devious about it. I think this is disgusting, and the Supreme Court is exactly where they deserve to be. It's just that we don't deserve to go along for the ride with them. They are making themselves look weak. They have made themselves look weak, and if it finally goes there, then what are you going to do to save the institution?
Yeah, and the amazing thing is we have not only his political movement, but you have decades of right-wing media being like, we need to stand up against tyranny. And now the second we get tyranny, oh, they love it. Oh my God, they can't. All they can focus on is how happy they are and occasionally replacing their khakis. That's all that they can do at this point. Again, we needed the guns for what? In case of a tyrant. They kept saying that over and over and over again. And now they've got the guns and they've got the tyrant. Weird that they don't have any plans for the weekend. But anyway, so that's what's going on. We have Donald Trump who's doing everything we said he would do and also more and also worse. I want to give credit where credit is due. He is more aggressively authoritarian than even I, the person with Trump derangement syndrome, assumed that he would be. And unless somebody steps up, unless the courts actually do something, actually strike him down, the Supreme Court upholds it, the Democrats grow a spine, unless something like that happens, we're either going to, I don't know, come out of this with no elections, no real separation of powers, we just have a king, or theoretically, this is now what the presidency is, and right wing buckle the hell up, because what's good for the orange man is good for the gander in this metaphor. And you think you're the only ones that can wield this now outsized executive power? I don't want it to be that way. I want to be very clear. I'm going on the record. I don't want it to go that way. But if that's the way that we're gonna go, then we can do that in the future too, okay, with one of our presidents, and we can see how much you like that. But anyway, we should move on to other stuff happening. Jesus. I don't know who was expecting that the Republicans would step up. There was a little bit of token resistance to Donald Trump in his first term. So maybe that left us with the idea that, like, hey, if he totally makes Congress irrelevant, just out of self-preservation, they'll have some sort of response to that. But no, we don't really have that. Even from people who have disagreed with Trump in the past, like Representative Chip Roy, as this whole constitutional crisis over whether the judges actually matter anymore is going on. Here is what he had to say.
Enacting your agenda and looking for waste is now something that requires a nationwide injunction to stop. Congress has got to step in on this nationwide injunction issue.
The president beat lawfare when it was going after him when he was a candidate. The president's going to beat this, in my opinion. Yes, I think he should take a page out of Andrew Jackson's playbook. At some point, JD Vance is right when JD said, hold on, you can't have a judge step in when the president is exercising his constitutional authority. Imagine if a judge said, Mr. President, as commander-in-chief, you can't bomb this particular city or this certain area. You can't do that.
Yeah, so that's Chip Roy referencing the apocryphal statement from Andrew Jackson that because the judges don't have a military, like, good luck actually enforcing your orders. Which again, did they ever say that when judges were striking down stuff that Biden had done? I don't recall. I don't watch a lot of Fox News, but he campaigned on canceling student loan debt. He did that. A judge stopped it, and I seem to recall Fox celebrating that. Isn't that weird how that works? And he's implying there, like, these hypotheticals that they give are so utterly pathetic. Like, imagine if the judge were to do something that judges haven't always done. Wouldn't that be bad? Well, yeah, they're not actually in charge of the military. The president is in the Constitution in charge of the military strategy and tactics and all of that. Judges are very clearly, both in the Constitution and through literally centuries of precedent, the arbiters of the law and the Constitution. And by the way, going in for waste is not one of the explicitly designated roles of the president. In fact, it's very clear in the Constitution that Congress is in charge of the purse. That's what they do. And the president saying, I don't like some of the way that Democratic or Republican Congresses in the past have allocated money means that I get to unilaterally go in and decide what's law and what's not. That is obviously not what the Constitution says. And so both of them are being so utterly pathetic. Like, if you wanna disagree with us, if you wanna go on Fox News and make the argument that we should have an emperor instead of a president, just be honest about what you're doing. But they have no respect whatsoever for the people actually viewing them. They have no respect for their audience. They have no respect for the Constitution, a document that they've been humping for decades, but seemingly have never read. And so you have that. You also have, let's see, Eli Crane, representative saying, yeah, no, we're gonna impeach one of the judges. It's because they're partisan. Okay, again, some of these judges were appointed by other Republican presidents. Some of these judges were appointed by Donald Trump himself, but it doesn't matter. Once they go against him, it doesn't matter if he chose them. It doesn't matter if he has True Social posts about how awesome they are and how trustworthy and how MAGA, they're so amazing. No, now they're partisan judges because they struck down something that he did. Was Eli Crane posting about how unfair it was when judges were striking down stuff that Joe Biden did or Barack Obama back in the day? Was Chip Roy going on Laura Ingraham and complaining about judges overstepping their bounds? No, of course they weren't. Because they wouldn't have meant it then. They're not meaning it now. Like, this is not, again, actually a principle that is being articulated. It is a temporary thing so long as Donald Trump is in charge, that he gets to rule. Congress is irrelevant. They themselves are irrelevant and judges are irrelevant. And so you have that. You have, obviously, Sharon, we've been talking about the Democrats saying, oh, we have no leverage. We can't do anything. I guess I'll just raise money for the next 4 years. Hakeem Jeffries, to his credit, is angry, but not about the same thing we're angry about. He's angry right now because liberal groups are pressuring the Democrats to do literally anything. That's what is frustrating Hakeem Jeffries. As our Constitution, as our system of government, as our society is being dismantled, shredded before our very eyes, Hakeem Jeffries is mad at moveon.org or whatever. a couple of the only organizations actually trying to get people together to oppose what's happening. Sharon, what do you think?
So the world is falling apart, the world as we knew it, and you still don't want to go big? He needs to have a seat, okay? If you're gonna have a seat all the way. Don't criticize, don't complain, just shut up. Or you can get creative and use every tool, every trick in the bag like the other side does, okay? All you can do is try. Sure, maybe you'll fail, but at least you'll go down swinging instead of being complicit in this ridiculousness.
Yeah, what why are you in charge? Like, that's not, again, not a rhetorical question. I am a man who notably is not a big fan of rhetorical questions that should actually be thought about and answered. Why did you want to be in charge? And like, I know what some people might say, well, maybe he only wanted to be in charge in case the Democrats actually won. But I've seen how Democratic speakers act when they're actually in power. They don't really seem all that into that either. So why? Like, if you're not even just gonna be like a crappy 2017 era Democratic resistance person who does like a symbolic thing and doesn't actually fight back or whatever, like that would be something at least. He's not even doing that. He's just he's just saying, leave me alone. I'll talk to you in a couple years. We can chit chat right before the midterms or whatever. Then I'll go back into hibernation for another year and a half. And then I'll endorse some centrist Democrat or whatever. And until then, just leave me alone. I'm trying to set up a future career as a lobbyist or whatever. You don't actually need to be in charge. Go be a lobbyist now. The pay will probably be better. And maybe we can put somebody in charge who will at least try and perhaps fail, but try. That's what we want. That's what we wanted out of Joe Biden. That's what we wanted out of Harris. And now they're not even in power anymore, but we still want them to try. People are not nearly as frustrated with their representatives failing as they are when they don't even try, when they surrender before day one, and that's what we're seeing out of him. And to a lesser extent, Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer is at least doing press conferences, but it's almost more pathetic than surrendering. Like, it's hardly, again, it's kind of, I guess, what I'm asking for, failing. I would say failure in results, not failure in rhetoric, failure in how you're communicating, but not a big fan of it. In any event, why don't we turn to one other weird aspect of this? So yesterday as a country, we experienced one of the strangest things that I've seen in a long time. Probably the strangest since Donald Trump met with Kanye West in the White House and planned out their future merch strategies, I have to assume. So we had Elon Musk, who goes into the Oval Office, and Donald Trump is just slumped over at the desk as Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, the man who bought the Republican Party for $290 million and is now just doing whatever the hell he wants, just did a press conference. Again, he's not elected, he's wildly unpopular. His popularity amongst Republican voters is half what it was after the election in terms of those who say they want him to have a big influence on what happens in the government. So he will have you believe that this is exactly what the American people wanted. They wanted a wealthy, corrupt moron to unilaterally do whatever the hell he wants, while Donald Trump barely manages to continue life. Okay, with the desk propping him up. If not that, he would literally just be collapsed on the floor of the Oval Office. And so journalists ask him some questions, which is good. I think that the effective president should be asked questions from time to time. And the first area we want to talk about is conflicts of interest, so here's what we have.
The White House says that you will identify and excuse yourself from any conflicts of interest that you may have. Does that mean that you are in effect policing yourself? What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency?
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, our actions, we post our actions to the DOGE handle on X and to the DOGE website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't think there's been, I don't know of a case that where an organization has been more transparent than the DOGE organization.
Okay, that is so freaking stupid. Oh, we tweeted something. So don't worry about what my group of wannabe hackers are doing in the Treasury system. If they do anything truly illegal, don't worry, I'll tweet it out. And then that'll be good. And also, if you have a few seconds, at some point, just watch the first couple seconds of that video again. Why, like, it's bad enough that we're an oligarchy now. It's bad enough that he gets to buy a party, then become president. But why does he have to look and act like the alien from Mac and Me while he's doing it? Could we at least have someone with a little bit of charisma? He's somehow worse than Trump in that respect. And as many people pointed out, it seems particularly weird that he's bringing his kid to these sorts of events as if like a cheap PR team was like, okay, well, you give off nothing human. Maybe if you demonstrate that you've reproduced, that will seem warm or something. To me, it's only a reminder of what his relationship with all of his exes and his other kids seem to be like and how vicious he's been to them. Now, granted, he hasn't yet been that vicious to this one, X, aside from the name, which is pretty bad. But if the kid ever disagrees with him, then I'm sure at that point he'll tear them a new one on social media. And so, look, all of this is terrible. Like, we should never have gotten to this point. This is objectively worse than Donald Trump's first term. Elon Musk, as we know and we will demonstrate, is already using the influence and access he has to personally enrich himself. And if you're a conservative watching this, you already know exactly how I feel. It's how you would feel if any other billionaire was doing this. You, for some reason, walled off your like foundational suspicion of elites to not include the most elite of the elites, the guy who has the most money, the guy who has spent the most money influencing our elections. He, for some reason, is above suspicion. Every other rich person, we should suspect, we shouldn't let them just do whatever they want. They might be corrupt, they might rig things in their favor, but not Elon Musk for some reason. That is a very, very strange position to hold. Sharon, what do you think about? What did you think when you saw those two in the Oval Office together?
Well, 3, if you include the toddler. And give it time, he's just 4, so they'll fall out. I assure you they will fall out. And by the way, as a sideline reporter in the NBA, I hated it when the players would bring the kid. Oh, it's so cute. The kid was obnoxious and you couldn't ask any difficult questions. You couldn't ask anything that was tough because now the kid's there. Donald Trump is officially checked out. He's so lazy, he used to like coming and threatening and standing before the press. Now he doesn't even like that part, so he's turned it over to this guy. He was asked about the lies he was telling on Twitter. And he said, well, I'm not gonna get everything right. But when we figure out that something's not correct information, we'll fix it. It's utter nonsense. They've locked members of Congress out of certain departments. There's no transparency. And the whole time Trump was sitting there, like you said, slumped over. Now he did wake up periodically to like roll his eyes and make contact, I'm sure with some of the conservative members of the press. And he's like, can you believe this question? I mean, it was just bananas. This is what we've signed up for, apparently. Really?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of ways that it could get worse. I guess Trump could hire the same PR team, and during his next press conference, like in the back corner, Eric is going to be playing with foam blocks or something. Probably. Like I guess that would be something. But anyway, yeah, no, this is just, if you're a conservative, if Joe Biden was like barely conscious as George Soros took questions and talked about how he is individually deciding who gets hired and fired in every agency of our government, how would you feel about that? Now I know what I'm asking you to do is dangerously close to exercising empathy, okay? Don't even do that. Don't worry about me, just worry about you. How would you feel if you saw this happening with a Democratic president? And I think we already know the answer to that question. If a Democrat ever wins again, I think we'll know exactly how you feel about the influence of billionaires, how you'll feel about the role of judges in our constitutional system. I have a feeling you'll snap back to that real fast. But anyway, we do have a lot of other stuff to get to. So we're gonna take a short break. We'll be back with more. I'm gonna give myself credit. I don't think anyone else has identified the striking resemblance that Elon Musk has to that strange alien in the McDonald's movie. But if you take a look at it, okay, it's from the 80s, or just watch, Conan O'Brien or whatever with Paul Rudd, you'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, with that said, let's jump into some comments. Okay, let's see. I give up says in the members' comments, please leave the South American politician dancing in the intro. It's all I have left. Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm like most sad to get rid of. Now we tried with the previous one that we had during the last couple of months of the election. We tried to put some fun in there with the memes and with the Harris and the coconuts and stuff like that. But like, if we were to do one right now, what would be the fun? Like other than, we have fun here, I guess, but we don't put ourselves in the intro generally. Maybe I'll have to do that. But like in terms of the country, what's the fun that's happening right now? I don't know. I don't think anyone is having fun. I'm not saying that nobody is getting what they want, but like, I don't think that conservatives like are genuinely having fun with the trans community being utterly annihilated. Like, who's actually enjoying this? I don't know. But anyway, Laura, I'm gonna wait for Sharon to get back to read that one. Susan Brennan became a member. Thank you, as always. Really appreciate the members who are helping out the show, helping out the network. We do appreciate that. Dragon Dancer, thank you for gifting a membership. Super nice of you. Dave Jones gifted 10 memberships. Thank you so much. Let's see. Trisha Briggs, member for 18 months, says, "What do you know? Trump is acting like a total authoritarian. None of us saw that coming, and it's just going to get worse." 100%. He is for a lot of different reasons. I'll plug once again. Ezra Klein did a video about why Trump is he's ruling like a king because he's too weak to govern like a president, and he makes some actually good points, I think. But anyway, Derek Hunter, member for 8 months, says this, and I think I know what this is a reference to. It says, "Nobody watches the damage report, literally nobody. How are they in business?" I think that's a reference to what Trump was saying about the Huffington Post. I think. If not, if he's actually a hater, I don't know why he would have been a member for 8 months. So I'm gonna assume that was that reference. Thank you, Derek. Let's see. Okay, Moondragon says, Moondragon says in super chat, "I know it's not relevant to the news, but Sharon always brightens my day with her beautiful smile. Maybe that's all we need." Maybe at the end of the day. Laura Philosophizes, member for 10 months, says, "Sharon, love her." Johnny Pie is pretty all right too. Thank you, I appreciate it. By the way, I will say I don't watch a lot of sports, except now I've started to. And you mentioned the sideline reporting and people bring their kids. So a couple of the players in the WNBA frequently do that. Nafisa Collier often has her kid, and Dearica does too. And I find it to be cute. I don't know, maybe it would be, maybe for some reason it's because the female athlete, I don't mind it as much, but I find it to be adorable.
Cute. When they do it, it's cute. I'm just saying that sometimes like the guy just, NBA, I was a sideline reporter there, not WNBA, but it's just like, you're just trying to avoid, how can I, we got it, okay? But I shouldn't have said that. I love kids, can you tell?
Yeah, I don't want that to spread. I don't want like Mitch McConnell to have like his 75-year-old kid on his shoulders or something. I don't want that. Anyway, Benjamin Morrill gifted a membership, which is super nice. Thank you so much. Purple Witch Dragon, member for 45 months, says, "Please stop pretending there will be another election. We are now ruled by a dictatorship, sad but true." Purple Witch Dragon, look, I can't wait to find out more than anyone, but we have to proceed with the idea that what we do matters, or else we wouldn't do anything. So I'm gonna continue to persist with the idea that we will. I mean, look, part of it is I don't think that Donald Trump has that many more years to live. Look at the guy. I mean, it's amazing that he's survived. I've done thousands of episodes of this. You'd think I'd look to see when the break is coming. But anyway, with that, why don't we get back to the news? And I'll finish that thought in another social break. Let's jump to this. Elon Musk's crack crew of expertly groomed tech boys have made a lot of headlines over the last week or two, detailing their explicitly racist social media activity and their potentially criminal actions in their prior careers, all 1 to 3 years of those careers. Today's news, though, is particularly worrying. And so take a look at this headline. Doge teen ran image sharing site linked to URLs referencing pedophilia and the KKK. And those are supposed to be two of the things that even the right, even MAGA's against, like the whole Q thing. Weren't you worked up about pedophiles? You don't seem that worked up about it anymore. But anyway, among the links were child-porn.store, which sells something, I'm not sure what. And KKK is cool.club. That seems fun, but there's a lot more where that came from, and we will get to that. First, though, to be clear, this guy Korstein and the White House were reached for they're asked for comment about this, and they had nothing to say. Weirdly enough, that one of their guys who's now meddling in government systems, possibly has access to information about you and your family, possibly could shut down the payments that are owed to you, apparently was doing business with people selling child pornography with explicit anti-Semites, and they just don't have anything to say about that. And hey, what do you know? I told you on Friday, they already did the test case. They brought back the normalized Indian hate guy. They brought back the I wouldn't care if every man, woman, and child in Israel was simultaneously Thanos out of existence. And now that they've done that, and it just happened and it was allowed, why would they ever answer for any of this anymore? So yeah, no, have a guy who maybe profited off of pedophilia. Have a guy who helped organize Nazis online. What's the difference? That's just our people. And so anyway, he used to be an intern at Neuralink. He was named senior advisor to the State Department's Bureau of Diplomatic Technology. Senior is really doing a lot of work there. He's also listed as an expert at the Office of Personnel Management. I guess the child-porn.store stuff is expertise of a sort. And so here are some of the other URLs that linked to his Tesla.sexy website in just a couple-month period. So let's see, we have childrensex.party, childporn.store, kkiscool.club, the nword.rentals, I don't even know what that is or sells, nwordsex.download, owns-a-slave.shop, rapingwomen.club, ketamine-rape.date. I think that one was designed to appeal to Elon Musk individually. Rape.business. He is a businessman after all. And rape-women. And they didn't have anything to say about it. No concerns. It's just, yeah. He's the best. We have to have him. It doesn't matter if he did all this stuff. We have to have him. Oh, also a Telegram handle associated with him sought to hire someone to commit a DDoS attack in a comm chat room that exists for the sale and solicitation of cyber crimes. So that's the guy that's in our government systems. He's solicited cyber criminals in the past and was fired for leaking sensitive company information from one of his prior jobs. Now, all of these are the sort of thing that like a background check or a security clearance procedure would want to look into. But of course, we don't do that anymore because this is not a meritocracy where you have to prove that you're qualified and that you've done the work and that you've earned these positions. No, Elon Musk knows that he likes this guy's identity. He likes his politics. Merit is dead. Okay, so he chooses this guy, and it doesn't matter what he's done. The pedophilia stuff doesn't matter. The anti-Semitism stuff certainly isn't going to matter to a guy doing Nazi salutes on stage. And so, like, this is who we have. And he interacted on Twitter with a eugenicist and white supremacist, saying that white 12-year-olds have higher IQs than black adults. Where should the IQ cutoff for rights be? The current legal standard is inconsistent. I don't think that the Constitution is really inconsistent about that. That's not a thing literally at all. Now, he deleted his response to that. We know that he responded. We don't know what he said. Maybe he was against what the white supremacist was saying, but I wouldn't bet much money on it. Sharon, what do you think?
This guy is so gross. The one thing I will say is not even that Elon Musk doesn't mind. I think you can't get a collection of, as Hillary Clinton would say, deplorables together like this with these kinds of credentials by accident. I believe he's going into these deep waters, this cesspool of sickness, literal sickness, degenerate type stuff. And he's saying, you're my first pick, I'll take you over there, and how about you too? Come along for the ride. It's not by accident. This is apparently what turns certain people on. What are we doing here? What you just listed off, tick down, is unfathomable, okay? I just cannot, it's beyond, and we've seen everything, okay? Beyond.
Well, that's the DOGE guy. Let's turn to a little update on another person we talked about, I believe last week on the show. We knew that Donald Trump's new undersecretary for public diplomacy was human trash, but somehow he's even worse than we thought last week. Now, bear in mind, his job is literally diplomacy. It's knowing when to say the right thing to solve a problem. Get a load of some of the things that he has said. So he once tweeted population control if only. And that's not the worst part. The worst part is that he is, quote, replying to his own thing, which is weird enough. But that's where he says higher quality humans are subsidizing the fertility of lower quality humans. Foundational reality of social and political life in the post-war West. So there's high quality humans, there's low quality humans, and we should population control the low quality ones. I wonder which groups are the low quality ones. I have no information through which to assume because I did wake up yesterday. And so let's see, he also references that it's terrible that abortion is legal, but quote, the idea of offering feral populations' financial incentives for voluntary sterilization is completely taboo. And look, I apologize. We are referencing stuff that he posted a long time ago. These were tweets from 2023 and 2024, which I think was 50 to 60 years ago. So maybe I'm dredging up old stuff here, but let's see. Okay, so he once replied to a comment about putting additional 50% taxes on single moms below an IQ testing threshold. And he said, how is this not a no-brainer? Well, you like it, so maybe it is. Pay smart people to have more kids, disincentivize stupid people from having kids. So simple, but molds destiny on deep intergenerational level. Yes, use the power of the government to financially get rid of groups you don't like. And we all know again what sort of groups he's getting at. He says in response to a thing about how Atlanta police responded to reports of a shooting, but the locals don't want a white cop in their neighborhood. He responded, when a population gets feral, a little snip snip keeps things in control. Could offer incentives, Air Jordans, etc. So, like if you thought, wait, maybe this isn't like an explicitly eugenicist, white suppressing black population thing. No, that's what it is. That's what it is. So we are going to get black people to voluntarily sterilize themselves. We're gonna go back to that time in American history. And in return, we're gonna give them shoes because they're feral and stupid and lower quality. So all they need is shoes, and then they won't reproduce in the future. Now, there's a lot worse than that. I mean, look, in September 2023, he said that the Israeli government should round up African migrants and drop them in the ocean. And if human rights groups whine, you should drop them in the ocean too. So African migrants should all be murdered. They should all be killed by drowning. And then people advocating for human rights, they should also be killed by the Israeli government. Okay, let's see. He also says, and I apologize that there's a lot here. This guy was very active in saying his insane things that should disqualify him from any position in public life. He said, it's not politically correct to say, but low IQ, low impulse control populations lack higher reasoning and moral faculties. They require strict corporal punishment and threat of violence to function properly within a society. So again, the government should now use corporal punishment against the racial groups that he doesn't like. And bear in mind, this guy who fetishizes the idea of higher quality, high IQ people, and that's who we should have, he now serves Donald Trump. So his commitment to worshiping high IQs obviously doesn't go that deep. I guess Trump gets a pass because he is, after all, at the end of the day, a white man. So Sharon, he is in a high position now in the State Department. He has power over diplomacy. The guy who says African migrants should all be mass murdered.
Yeah, well, he knows his history too, because several of the things that you ticked off this time, if you know anything about the slave trade and what went down, and if they got a little sick, you just throw them off the ship, leave them somewhere in the Atlantic. That's what happens. Human breeding, making sure those strong bucks are bred to farm the land and take care of things, just like Massa wants them to. I mean, this guy knows his history. And speaking of impulse control, everything you ticked off and how active he is on social media. I mean, is there no impulse control there? When does he have time to spread hate other than on social media? I mean, Donald Trump has him in the job for a reason. Is he going to be able to get to that? Perhaps we should let him keep going then. Just let him keep going on social media, where it's perhaps offensive, but less hurtful.
I love, and this is probably the pettiest, stupidest part of this, but like these people, these broken-brained baby men, okay, who have to believe I was born better than all these people. I have to have been better. I'm higher IQ. We created a test that's designed to make me seem smarter. I have to be better. They're stupid and feral. Look at how much they like shoes. And then Donald Trump releases sneakers for like $400 and they lose their minds over them. But you guys are better. You're superior, okay? Because you're not feral and stupid and obsessed with things like sneakers and everything, like the people you don't respect. Okay, well, let's jump to something else. Gotta fit in as much of the horrors of the day as we can. Representative Nancy Mace took a brief break from demonizing trans people to give a speech on the House floor this week, and she spoke about the abuse that she's experienced. And in doing so, she announced that she wants to be a part of the solution. Okay, so what she did was she set up an assault hotline. Or did she? Because a Mother Jones journalist tried to use this hotline, which is designed for people to call in and report assaults that they've experienced. For some reason, she wants you to do that to her office rather than the national services with decades of experience and training and expertise. Okay, so the journalist called Mace's hotline 3 different times, each time at least 1 hour apart. Okay, this is in one day, and got what was essentially a glorified email. Every time the line rang repeatedly before ending with an automated message from Mace herself saying, "Hi, this is Congresswoman Nancy Mace, and you've reached our office victim hotline. Please note your information is confidential, maybe. Please leave a detailed message and we will contact you as soon as possible. You may also text us at this number." Okay, so her staff, I guess, is in theory running this hotline. Nobody seems to answer it, so maybe it's not being run at all. We have no idea of what training any of these individuals have gotten. We have no idea what privacy controls or anything are in effect for that. And so she eventually, the reporter, texted the number and said, "Hi, is this Nancy Mace's victim hotline?" 45 minutes go by and a text came back that said, "Yes, it is." So the idea is that people are calling in to report that they've experienced some of the most unimaginable things that one can experience. And somebody reaches out needing help and you're just like, "Yeah, no, it is." After 45 minutes. Again, like, is this by design? Is this like a failure on the part of Nancy Mace to make something that was always gonna be stupid, but now it's not even that? Or is this like a willful mockery of these sorts of services? Because we know Nancy Mace doesn't actually care about women who've experienced sexual assault and things like that. I mean, she fetishizes Donald Trump. She knows exactly what sort of man he is. She knows exactly what he has done, what juries have already adjudicated he's done. Maybe some of those women can call up this hotline. Good luck getting through. And she's super happy about this. So she's tweeting about what a success it is. People can't actually get through. And if they did, God only knows what good that would actually do them. But all of this is in pursuit of her cosplaying caring about women, which is incredibly gross in a time when women not only have all the struggles that they've had historically, but their lives have been made materially harder in 1,000 different ways thanks to Donald Trump and the Republican Party. And so all the help you get is a line that you can call to leave a voicemail or whatever. It's very thoughtful, very understanding. Sharon, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I don't know why you're so worried about it. I mean, she's following her dear leader. She's gonna help the women whether they like it or not, okay? This is all about the appearance of nothingness. And it's a giant distraction. Even women being assaulted is a giant distraction. Here's what I'm doing to help. We're protecting women with, a 6-week abortion bill and everything else. It's all about helping us into submission and trauma is what they're doing while they steal everything. Just take it all. Can they just steal everything and leave us alone, our bodies? That might be a deal I would make. We'll fend for ourselves, we'll grow our own food, organic things. If they could just leave us alone in this trauma and take everything else. And she's a woman. This is what we're doing, voting for Hegseth and following Donald Trump. Help the women whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
Sorry, do these people then proclaim they go to church and they're just so ethical and moral and they want the rest of us to capitulate, and come on, family values.
They say that they're Christians or whatever. They don't have to actually do it or whatever, but they said it, and that makes them automatically better and more moral than you. Doesn't matter what you do and advocate for the effect.
When they sit in the pews. I mean, I once had, my blouse was a little low, and you should see this, the lady's giving me side eye, okay? Now, I haven't been in years, but I'm just telling you, the church I went to, that's what would happen. But here, I guess everything's good.
Yeah, it's just, it's gross. We should expect better. Get people like this out of office. But unfortunately, Republicans have been trained by their media to have no expectations whatsoever. Okay, we're gonna take our second break. Lots more to talk about after this. How do you choose a garbage person out of this? out of these news cycles? I don't know. Cameron Dunham, thank you for becoming a tier 2 member. I appreciate it. Tier 2 members get access not only to a colored name in the chat and all of the emojis and everything. And by the way, if people have requests for emojis, I love that. Send me them. I'll try to make those happen. But you also get access to the members content that Francesca and I do every week. We're now recording those on Thursdays because Francesca's moved from Monday to Thursday. So you can definitely look forward to that. Don Quixote gifted 5 memberships. As always, Donkey, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. James Hickson gifted 5 memberships too. So much gifting going on. Thank you. Daniel Roman, member for 39 months, says, John, you're the absolute best. You're thoroughly empathetic, authentic. Society needs to meet the standard that you represent. So stay strong, don't falter. I appreciate that. It's very nice of you. Thank you. But no, don't worry about me. No, you should be following role models like Jesse Waters and Pete Hegseth and stuff like that. Just be pathetic, victim complex, obsessed, identity politics, obsessed drunks and predators, and just be that. That's how America will be strong, when men become pathetic in that particular cringy way again. Gargoyle Dragon says in a super chat, I would have loved if when Trump started talking, the reporter would have said, sorry, sir, I was asking the president, and watch Trump malfunction. I mean, look, that would be amazing. It would of course be the final question that you ever ask in the White House, or maybe in your life.
Wonderful.
But I do like that Gargoyle Dragon, and I don't know if you have a Blue Apron gift card already. If you don't though, send an email to rewards@2itnetwork.com and we'll get you hooked up, but I love that comment. By the way, Darth Hefe says, hey John, did you see LA Knight's promo last week on SmackDown about men crying into being okay? I did, and I appreciated that. It was good. LA Knight's a good guy. He should come on the show. Okay, Bianca the Purple Binky Dragon Lopez says, can the store brand MTG shutter pie hole? AH is just a nutball. Damn, that's brutal. Well, thank you for the comment. Bianca also said, we are living weekend at Bernie's. Shmee. Was that a reference to the Mitch McConnell thing that I was saying? I don't know. We do have more and more elected representatives now, like having sort of shutdowns during speeches. Not good. Not good. Todd Chisholm Jr. says in super chat, I don't understand why Elon named his son X. The name Xavier is right there. Because he's Elon Musk, and he's what he is, and he has some bizarre lifelong obsession with a particular letter that he thinks is interesting or extreme or funny or subversive or sexy or whatever. I don't know. He just saw a letter and that was it for the rest of his life. He became obsessed with that. It's very, very strange. You don't have to be a genius to think that that's strange. Just a normal, well-adjusted person, but that's what and who he is. Anyway, stab dragon says, I find it perplexing that any woman would let that thing touch her, but for some reason he has 10 kids, low self-esteem for those baby mamas. I don't know. I don't know any of the women. I don't know what their relationship is like. I cannot conceive of having a 30-second conversation with him, let alone letting that bizarre Mac and me weirdo touch me. But I don't know. Some people seem to be into that. He does have a lot of money. I will grant you that. Anyway, Kevin Bard says, make the Buck versus Bell Supreme Court decision of 1927 great again, the one that legalized forced sterilization of people. But like, do you think that they wouldn't? Is that objectively crazier than sending accused shoplifters to Guantanamo Bay? I think they're in the same conversation. Okay, I feel like that one ended a second early because I was actually preparing for the end and it still cut me off. But anyway, we're gonna jump into 2 more stories to end the hour. Everyone, if you're just joining us now, hit the like button and we'll do this. Donald Trump is making it clear that if you have a single ounce of sense and you're in the media, your services will not be required anymore. See, the Associated Press was apparently shut out of an executive order signing yesterday because of their refusal to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, the stupid little distraction that Donald Trump signed into an executive order or whatever, so that some of his followers wouldn't realize that he's absolutely screwing up their finances. So anyway, they put out a statement saying, today we were informed by the White House that if the AP did not align its editorial standards with President Donald Trump's executive order renaming it, AP would be barred from accessing an event in the Oval Office, and they were barred. Now, their style book says this. The Gulf of Mexico has carried that name for more than 400 years. The Associated Press will refer to it by its original name while acknowledging the new name Trump has chosen. As a global news agency that disseminates news around the world, the AP must ensure that place names and geography are easily recognizable to all audiences. And that makes sense. Again, it's been used for centuries, and also it doesn't help to call it the Gulf of America. We know it borders America. We need to know where else it borders so we know where it is. It could be south of Seattle. It could be north of Rhode Island and be the Gulf of America. But the Gulf of Mexico gives you an idea of where it is. It's a little bit more helpful. It's not nearly as stupid. So that's a benefit that his thing has. But anyway, the AP has stood up for it. We'll see. Maybe they'll give in later on today. And I understand they have a job that they need to do. And we live in insane times where media outlets can be censored by the regime for having an ounce of common sense. But unfortunately, most other people have already given in. So Apple and Microsoft have joined Google in using Gulf of America in their Maps programs, at least for people accessing those services from America. And for now, the White House Correspondents Association, which is like the group that represents those in the room, they say the White House cannot dictate how news organizations report the news, nor should it penalize working journalists because it's unhappy with their decisions. They say it's unacceptable to bar them. But so what are you gonna do? Like, are all of the media outlets going to boycott it? They could. I mean, they'll just send a bunch of right-wing ones in place of them. But like, if it's unacceptable, are you going to accept it? Because if you just continue going on about your business, well, then it wasn't unacceptable. It was accepted. It's been accepted. That's actually that's how it works. So we'll see. And I have no doubt that the White House, they've barred the AP for this thing. What'll they do next? I don't know. Maybe we'll be barred for calling Twitter instead of X or whatever stupid thing. I'm not calling it his son's name. I'm just not doing that. And so I don't know. But this is the sort of cancel culture that Donald Trump is running in the White House. And we're gonna see who complies with it. Sharon, what do you think?
What they'll do next is whatever they feel like doing. Whatever they feel like doing when they wake up that morning after they have an Egg McMuffin or something. And people will put up with it, and it is acceptable. Just like when ABC settled right after Trump won for that nonsense with George Stephanopoulos telling the truth really about Donald Trump. They actually settled and the number was astronomical, okay? So they will accept this. So I appreciate the White House Correspondents Association for putting out that, did they do it on Twitter? The statement is what it is and no one's paying attention. So you better have a game plan. They still, after all this time, don't have a game plan on how they're gonna deal with this, okay?
You had years.
Maybe they'll take them off Shopify again. Remember that? After January 6th, they said he was off Shopify. Whatever, Netflix, I think, banned. There's
Kanye
a couple
was
of
just
Amazon.
Off of Shopify, I think,
back.
for the swastika thing. Yeah, and by the way, this is not the first time that the White House has done something like this. Back in 2018, Caitlin Collins was blocked from covering an event because she asked Trump if he had concerns about the loyalty of his former personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, which, by the way, was a great question considering what ended up happening with that. So they barred her because she did her job. You're not supposed to do your job. And by the way, so what should the media do? We already know. Fox News told us literally yesterday. Emily Campagno or whatever said they should just publish the press releases that the White House puts out. They should just do North Korea stuff. That's all. You're not supposed to think about it, add context, fact check, nothing like that. You just put out press releases, which I imagine is what Fox was saying when Biden was president. I think that Fox basically shut down. They just retweeted whatever Joe Biden said, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, we're gonna go to one more story, and it's one that I'm a little bit into. Let's jump to this whenever we're ready. Elon Musk, I hate to admit it, but you did it. Tesla is in fact #1 with the highest fatal accident rate among all car brands in America. It's not a prestigious award, I never said that it was. It's kind of a rough one actually. And it's actually even worse than it sounds. Being #1 for highest fatal accident rate isn't the worst that this gets. So this is all according to a recent IC Cars study that analyzed data from the US fatality analysis reporting system, which I have to imagine is being defunded right now, thanks to this reporting. Anyway, what they did was they looked at model year cars from 2018 and 2022, and they focused on crashes between 2017 and 2022 that resulted in occupant fatalities. Tesla vehicles had a fatal crash rate of 5.6 per billion miles driven. Kia was second with 5.5. Buick was number 3 with 4.8. Now, on average, cars in America were at 2.8 per billion vehicle miles driven, and that's the worse than it sounds I was referencing. It's not just that they're worst, it's that the average is half the amount of Tesla. This is the sort of thing that I feel like should be all over the news. How are business networks not focusing on this? That you're twice as likely as average to be in a fatal accident? And by the way, they may not cover it, but Musk could at least update this tweet where he says Teslas are the safest cars on the road, but most people don't know that. I think they should know the results of this study, actually. Now, to be fair, it isn't necessarily just the cars. It isn't necessarily that the cars are naturally less safe. It could also be something about the sort of people who drive the cars, which many are perfectly lovely, normal people. But apparently Tesla drivers have more incidents, accidents, DUIs, speeding, and citations per 1,000 drivers than most other cars. You can see Subaru, for instance, has like 4 less incidents per 1,000 drivers than Tesla. So they not only have the highest fatal accident rate, they also have the highest negative driving incident rate. So maybe it's something about that. Maybe they're just trusting the self-driving features that Elon Musk has been willfully, knowingly lying about for literally years so that he can make a buck off of people, and maybe they die as a result of it. And so regardless, I don't know the exact explanation for this, Sharon, but it doesn't look good. And there should be an investigation. Now there won't, because Elon Musk is now in a position to shut down any agency that actually looks into or reports on this information. That's how this corrupt administration actually works. But for the safety of people, I do think that there should be an investigation. What do you think?
Yeah, and then when that investigation's launched, it's going to be shut right down. But at this point, we're talking a lot about Elon Musk, who didn't get one vote. And again, every time I think of him doing that salute or raising his hands, I see his milky belly, and I just cannot. It's so gross. But here's the thing: this is supposedly our country, and maybe someone correct me. Maybe I am naive, okay, at this advanced age. But when are people going to storm things like they did with bear spray and rifling through Nancy Pelosi's desk over nothing? By the way, it was not rigged. He lost, okay? And Joe Biden, who stayed in his basement for the whole campaign, actually kicked his butt. When are the people who aren't corrupt, like everyday Americans, going to just say, you know what? This is ours. We're going to take it back. We're going there, and we're not leaving. He can't. Well, I mean, he probably can get Tulsi Gabbard and the rest of them to open fire or spray us or do something. But we have to fight back instead of just taking it and going on with our lives. Our lives are not going to continue as we know them. And by the way, for some of us, it hasn't been that great lately. It hasn't been that great for a couple of years for people.
I know. There have been a lot of protests. We'll see. Hopefully, a lot of people run for office. Hopefully, the midterms are an absolute bloodbath for them politically. That's typically how it works politically, assuming we get to have fair elections.
And I'm sorry for interrupting you. Back to Hakeem Jeffries and company. If they don't want to do it, great. Raise your money, sit back for 4 years. But since it's irreparable and nothing can be done, why not let AOC have a go at it? Why not let them do it? And then when they fail, or if they fail, you can say that we tried. Why not have some new blood and follow them? And take them on for a minute. That's the part that you're not going to do anything and you won't let anybody else do anything.
Yeah, and of course, Hakeem Jeffries cares more about his power and his ability to fundraise than he does about the future of either the Democratic Party or the country. And so, until they get booted from the party, I'm in favor of them conducting their own little coup. The Democratic Party, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, some others should get together and say, our leadership has abdicated their responsibility, what our voters want us to do in this time. So we are now designating ourselves, we are the official spokespeople for this party. And we'll see what the people think. I think I know where the people will side, but let's see that. And if some of the other centrists or whatever want to get on board, that want to have a future in the party, if Pete Buttigieg, wants to have a future, then he can support that coup. But I would love to see that because something needs to happen.
Who's are in?
Yeah, and by the way, I know that it's pointless to even talk to the board of Tesla because they're all just Elon Musk cultists. Like considering this data, like shouldn't you have a CEO? Wouldn't that be good to have someone who actually cares about what's happening with your company and with your cars, and not a guy who's just sleeping in like a DC dorm with a bunch of 18-year-old boys and ruining our government? Like you're paying for a CEO, shouldn't you have a CEO? Anyway, I don't understand business, I guess. It's better to not have one. Anyway, that's unfortunately all the time we have for the first hour of the show. Thank you everyone for watching. There's of course more to come in the aftermath. Head over to the YouTube channel or on Twitch, you can see that. We'll be back after this. Welcome one and all to the Aftermath. John here, Sharon as well. Sharon, thank you for being here.
Yes.
We're gonna.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Well, you can't. We need you here, okay? We have you for this time at least. I want to read a few comments before we jump in the news. Max Schaefer says the distance they sleep apart is the Gulf of Melania. That's funny. The news is so rough that yes, I will draw a little bit of Schadenfreude with the knowledge that Donald Trump has probably never experienced actual romantic love before. Anyway, Leo says in a super chat, Elon is obsessed with the letter X because his trans daughter dropped her dead name, which starts X. He's broken by his inability to understand her. That's interesting. I think it's probably more a symptom than the cause, because I think he's been naming stuff X something for like decades at this point. I don't know for sure. Maybe you're right. And finally, Tatted Reaperus says in super chat, MAGA crying about halftime show. One best thing I've seen on the internet was a photo of Kendrick saying halftime show was for people who understand what a tariff is. I was LMFAO. I have not seen that, but that is very funny. Okay, with that, I don't want to talk about this. It's so depressing. Why did we put it on the rundown? Okay. If you thought you were going to go a full calendar day without Donald Trump saying something utterly horrific, forget about it. See, he was talking with the King of Jordan about his recent speech about how he was going to buy Gaza out from under the feet of millions of people who've lived there for decades and decades and decades. Yeah, you're going to have to see what he had to say about that. Take a look.
You've said before that the US would buy Gaza, and today you just said we're not going to buy Gaza.
We're not going to have to buy. We're going to have Gaza. We don't have to buy. There's nothing to buy. We will have Gaza.
What does that mean?
No reason to buy. There is nothing to buy. It's Gaza. It's a war-torn area. We're going to take it. We're going to hold it. We're going to cherish it. We're going to get it going eventually, where a lot of jobs are going to be created for the people in the Middle East. It's going to be for the people in the Middle East, but I think it can be a diamond. It can be an absolute tremendous asset for the Middle East, and you're going to have peace. It's going to bring peace in the Middle East.
Yeah, that is one way to bring peace. When you have two groups that are warring, when you ethnically cleanse one and they don't exist as a population anymore, I guess you do have peace at that point. You know, the Death Star in Alderaan didn't really have much to fight about after the super laser was used, I guess. So it is peace from a certain point of view. So anyway, yeah, we're not gonna buy it. What? Oh, you thought the horrific war crime I was gonna commit was going to buy land from Israel, which they can't sell it, but we're gonna buy it. We're gonna trade money. No, we're just gonna take it. We're gonna take it, we're gonna have it, we're gonna cherish it. Okay, all the people in Gaza who own that land, who own that property, own the buildings that were destroyed in this illegal war by Israel, no, they don't get to own stuff. They're not white at all. What do you mean own land, own property? No, it's ours. We take it. He said earlier this week, I will own it. It will be mine, not even ours, not even the country's. And I know that he's like been talking now about the Gaza thing for like a week. So we're all supposed to just accept this now. It's supposed to be normalized. But like, can I just point out that he should not be president? Like you have to, I don't know, 25th Amendment. Senate leaders come in, like, no, you don't get to advocate. The American military is just going to seize land and banish millions of people from their land. That should be a non-starter, right? That we're not a democracy anymore, we're an empire. We just go around conquering land like it's the 18th century or something like that. No, that should be utterly unacceptable. And every single headline should make that clear. But again, the judges are worried about being nullified. Congress is asleep. And the media is all worried about having their broadcast licenses taken. So nobody even identifies that what he's saying is utterly antithetical to any value that's ever been attributed to America. And so he then goes on to say, oh yeah, we're just gonna find land in Jordan, land in Egypt. They'll go there. Whatever, we'll just get rid of them. Now, of course, the King of Jordan is like, no, we're not doing that. What are you talking about? But what does Donald Trump care? Jordan, again, not filled with white people. So why would they get to decide what happens to them any more than Palestinians would? And so they're being very clear that we're not displacing all the Palestinians. We're not ethnically cleansing Gaza, but that seems to be very clearly what the goal here is. And basically nobody's pushing back against it. And so that's all fun, Sharon. What do you think?
I think it worked out before. Remember, there was a turkey dinner there and everything, and now there's a bunch of casinos, and they'll just give them some casinos and things, and then everything will be great. It's gonna be a beautiful project. There's gonna be pristine conditions there, and the people who are moved out are ethnically cleansed, whichever you prefer. They'll be okay. Okay, we're gonna share a little bit with them, give them something or another, some vegetables or something. It's gonna be fine. This was the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. And for the king of Jordan to sit there and have to play with this guy, okay? So we're gonna help 2,000 children, we're gonna do this to try to like kind of shift this child Trump's focus away from the ethnic cleansing. Who's gonna give you all this beachfront property, waterfront property, as Jared, the son-in-law, would say? He actually believes this. This is not a game, this is not a joke. He's going to name it after, the Trump name will be on it, okay? This is happening unless the world stops him. Now we're still waiting on that. What will the world do?
I don't know. We had this weird thing where like, we understand that things were bad if it was long enough ago, but we don't now. But like, if Hitler had been like, no, Poland's gonna be ours, we're not gonna buy it, we're just gonna take Poland. Poland's gonna be a peach, it's gonna be a diamond, it's gonna be amazing. We'll take the Polish, we'll send them like, you'd get that was wrong, right? You get that. You get that Putin invading Ukraine was wrong. Well, some Americans get that Putin invading Ukraine was wrong. You get that Israel utterly devastating the Palestinian. Well, some Americans get that that's wrong. Okay, maybe I take back my question. There's been a lot of normalization of utterly unacceptable things recently. But anyway, let's turn to now how you sell this, okay? So bearing in mind that the MAGA world has said, we like Trump because he's anti-intervention. No new wars, they say, even though he continued all of the wars we were in for the entire time he was president. He didn't end any of them. He massively escalated a lot of them. So the idea that he was anti-war was always utterly ridiculous. Well, now he's going around saying we're gonna invade and conquer territory all over the world, which seems like a bit of a shift. You might imagine right-wing pundits, which were endorsing Trump and saying, we love that he's anti-intervention, not like these damn Democrats with their nation building. You'd think that they would have some follow-up questions, but no, they took their marching orders and they're going and trying to sell this 180 from Donald Trump rhetorically on how we're gonna interface with the rest of the world. And here's an example of how they're doing it. Obviously, this is not gonna be the best version of this because it's Jesse Waters and he's a dullard, but here's what he had to say.
This population in Palestine is hostile, it's uneducated, it's even more radicalized than they were at the beginning of this. I mean, now they have no homes at all. They're even more hateful of the Israelis. And their birth rate is explosive. The average Palestinian woman has 5.5 babies. The average Israeli woman has only 2.5 babies. So demographically, they're a threat, not to mention the national security threat. There is no way you can have these two peoples living side by side.
Yeah, so again, I don't like them, okay? For some reason, they're less educated than Israelis. I don't know exactly why. I mean, the fact that they don't control their country or their borders, they've been under a massive blockade for years and years and years. I'm not gonna criticize Jesse Waters for not knowing that. He's an idiot. Obviously, he doesn't know most of these things. And weirdly enough, they hate Israel more than they did before 60 or 80 or 100 or 200,000 of their people were brutally murdered. I don't know why, because I'm not gonna use any empathy. That would require me to imagine that they react to things like humans do, like I would if this were to happen to me or the place I live. But I don't want to imagine them as humans. So I'm gonna pretend that it's weird that they're angry that people around them are being killed, that virtually every building in their territory has been destroyed. I don't know why these feral creatures are angry about that. And also they have too many kids. Now, every other day on Fox News, they tell you, no, we have to have more kids. Populations are going down. But that's for the good white people. Good white people should have more kids. These animals are having too many. So they're a demographic threat. They're having more kids than the rich white man says they should. So obviously they shouldn't be allowed to remain on the territory that they own. And so this is how you try to sell people on utterly unacceptable things. I'm sure there was German media that was trying to get the population excited to conquer the world. Jesse Waters is now doing that, okay? It's the same exact thing with many of the same techniques. Now done, again, in a far stupider, duller way because he's incredibly mediocre at his job, but he's doing his best, Sharon. What do you think?
Yeah, he's too lazy to even study every ounce of Hitler's destruction. He's just kind of cherry picking little things. And to mention that a certain population is more educated than another when Palestinian students are barred from going to certain universities and can't cross over here and go to Tel Aviv to go to school and this and that. He's just a buffoon. Who educated him? Because he needs to go back and try it again, do redo on that. It's just pathetic and gross that this is actually the playbook. It's the exact Nazi playbook. Everything is the same. And yet here we are in 2025 and no one's sounding that alarm because you mentioned, the networks and the licenses and he'll come after us. And let's just get through it, guys. Let's just get through the next 4 years. We shouldn't say anything.
100%. And I'm gonna leave everyone with a question, which I feel stupid even asking this question because I would assume everyone would be talking about this. I haven't seen people talk about this, so I don't know what's going on. But so there's a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. Now maybe that won't go through or whatever. So they're being told that if you stop fighting, we are going to take every single one of you and we're going to banish you forever from this land. And they're supposed to stop fighting. Why would they do that? Now, I don't want Hamas to fight. I don't want there to be violence. But why would they put down their weapons when you've told them that they will all lose any claim forevermore to that land and they'll be sent somewhere? Jordan, Egypt, the middle of the ocean, whatever. Why would they stop fighting? I literally have not seen anyone in the mainstream media ask that question. And I feel like that's the only question worth asking if we go forward with this. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm crazy or if the media is crazy. I feel like it's one of the two. Anyway, with that said, let's move on to hopefully we can get to both of these topics because they're both good, but let's jump now to this. Missouri's Republican Attorney General is now claiming in a lawsuit that Starbucks, they did a DEI, and not only a DEI so bad that it's breaking the law and it might be ruining your mocha latte and it needs to stop, okay? So they say that Starbucks has violated federal and state laws prohibiting race discrimination, okay? Because of their commitment to allowing people of all races to work there. That is now, again, everything's been turned on its head. And if you hire anyone other than just white people, you are discriminating based on race. So they say that, he says, Starbucks' commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion is mere pretext for its actual commitment to unlawful discrimination. In other words, this is a quote. Since 2020, Starbucks' workforce has become more female and less white. That's a direct quote. And he said that as evidence that they are breaking the law. You look at it and they have more women and more people who aren't white. So clearly they've broken the law. That's what passes for an argument, a legal argument in this time. And he says that because of this, Missouri's consumers are required to pay higher prices. He has not demonstrated that. He's just asserting that it costs you more. And wait longer for goods and services that could be provided for less had they employed the most qualified workers, regardless of their race, color, sex, or national origin. Because he is assuming, as all of these people do, that if you are not white, you are obviously not as qualified. And for some reason, you have to pay more because they hired bad workers. And now the reason he's adding all of this, despite his inability or unwillingness to demonstrate it with evidence, is if you just tell people, oh, it's bad, they're being mean to white people, that doesn't win over enough people. You need to pretend that there's an economic aspect to this, even though, again, he has not demonstrated that. Now they say that's not how it works at all. We hire the most qualified workers. We just want to make sure that we're not discriminating against people for not being white, for not being men. You know, the way hiring practices worked for literally decades and decades and decades. And so in this time though, Sharon, he doesn't even have to have evidence. It's Donald Trump. I think he'll win on this. What do you think?
I think you're right. Because again, you have to consider the context, the climate, everything. And when you put all that stuff in a big bowl, yes, I think he can absolutely do it, okay? We're talking about Starbucks and the right to buy a $10 latte. And that's like part of, will you stop, okay? We can't even afford the coffee. And maybe more women applied. Maybe there's more women. I don't know, and I don't care, okay? This is the nonsense and the distraction that's going on. It is constant. That I don't have a solution to, how the media is supposed to navigate this constant distraction while they steal everything from the Treasury. But just make it stop. Can you just make it stop? Because I'm getting a migraine. I'm actually getting a migraine now.
You need some caffeine, I think. Yeah, right. People are pointing out in the chat, there are more women than men in this country. So if you're hiring more men than women, aren't you violating the demographics of our nation? Clearly, you're biased at the way you're hiring. Now, it's obviously more complicated than that, but yeah, no, this is just insane. So like, again, DEI now means not only not what it actually means or was intended to do, but the exact opposite.
That's right.
So we're anti-DEI, we're anti-inclusion, and I want more white people. And I demand that you give me more white people because I don't like inclusion.
That's a meme.
Okay, it doesn't make sense to a rational person. It doesn't make sense to a sane person at all. Anyway, with that said, I want to turn to low-key my favorite topic of the entire day, just because of how stupid and how perfect it is at the exact same time. So let's jump to this. Trump is gonna fail in 1,000 different ways, and for two main reasons, okay? First, because his policies are not designed to help regular people. So even if he gets the policies he wants, regular people are going to suffer by design. The second reason is because he's one of the dumbest people on the planet, and we've known that for years. But when he does fail, and he will, don't worry. He's got an excuse lined up already to excuse what he's done in all the ways that he hasn't made good on the promises that he made as a candidate. And we have an example of it. Here it is. It's being used to excuse the early signs of the failure, which are already here. He truth socialed this. He bleated this. Biden inflation up. I'm sorry. What are you talking about? What do you mean Biden inflation up? Biden isn't president anymore. And it's weird that you now are insisting that he's president when he's not, when you spent the last 4 years insisting that he wasn't when he was. And so what is he responding to? Well, inflation rose in January as prices for groceries and housing and other things picked up. Rent is contributing like 30% of the rise. Groceries are more expensive. Everything is more expensive. Now, the thing that bothers me the most about all this is a lot of the headlines said it's unexpectedly up. I'm sorry, what are you talking about? What do you mean unexpectedly? I expectedly that it was going up. I knew that it was going up. And in particular, groceries and housing. Now, what did we say? In advance of the tariffs, in advance of the immigration crackdown, it's going to raise these prices. And what do you know? It's doing the thing we said it would do because that's how things work. But again, the excuse is here. When it happens, even though we predicted it, and it's happening exactly as we said, it's not me, Biden inflation up. And isn't that perfect? In the early part of last year, when the stock market was at record numbers, he said, I get the credit, even though he wasn't president and wouldn't be for like 8 months. So even though Biden was president, Biden doesn't get the credit. And now that Biden isn't president and things are going down, Biden gets the discredit. It's his fault. Now, I don't know how long you can go with this, Sharon. Maybe you can go 4 years. Maybe they can just thanks Biden the entire term. What do you think?
I think he can. By the way, I do sometimes wonder, what is Biden doing right now? Is he even watching? Is he fishing? What is he doing? Sleeping in? Probably sleeping a lot, napping.
Good question.
It's just, this is phenomenal. This nonsense here. I saw something on social media. It was a news clip where you had a principal, a superintendent, and a teacher who had all voted for Trump. And the teacher said, I voted for him because I wanted America to be great, but I didn't know we would not be able to afford books if this thing is defunded, talking about the Department of Education or something. And it was crazy. What did you people expect? I don't need eggs. I'm not baking. And I used to eat a bunch of eggs, scrambling them every morning, but I don't have to have eggs, okay? But a lot of people do. And I don't like fresh eggs, believe it or not. I like pasteurized. They just taste different. I don't know. I know people who they have chickens, okay, and they raise eggs and they go in and I don't want fresh. terrible as that sounds. But what did you people expect?
I know.
The eggs are sky high if they're not stolen. There's some places where they were stolen. You can't even get them if you had the money. Did I even answer the question? This whole thing is chaos, 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 chaos. We're like hamsters on a wheel.
Exactly, just trying to keep our head above wheel, I guess. I'm bad with metaphors. I agree too. Well, I like raw eggs. I like raw everything because I don't feel that we should be killing parasites and viruses. I think that they deserve a chance to live too. But anyway, I'm gonna close on this. And I previewed this a couple weeks ago when I said the first term of Trump, we were also horrified by what he was doing, that we were just focused on blocking him and we had no expectations for him because he was an illegitimate president. That's largely true now, but no, I have expectations. Okay, you've had 1 month and your record blows. It automatically blows. And this is not a game. Inflation going up hurts people. You know how I know that? Because you said it over and over for the last couple of years. In fact, you won by blaming Biden for the inflation, which never really made total sense, but he was president. Okay, now you're president and I have expectations. I demand that you get control of this. I demand that you alleviate the suffering that you're leading to for tens of millions of American households. American households who already were suffering and cannot afford to pay a constant daily Trump tax on everything they buy as you make it worse and worse. And this is how bad it is when you made temporary deals for most of your tariffs. They might still go into effect in a month or two. And that will undoubtedly make things worse. So I demand that you get off your ass and do your goddamn job and get these prices down. And if you can't, then we need to boot your ass out of there. We need to boot the Republicans out of the Senate and the House because we expect that they do something. Now, most of them are asleep and you're utterly incompetent. But eventually the check is gonna come due, okay? And what brought you into office should necessarily get your ass kicked out of office, okay? We're doing things different this time. I expect more, I'm not gonna get it, but when I don't, then that's it for you. Get the hell out of office and let someone come in who's actually gonna solve problems rather than making them worse. Now, with that said, unfortunately, we don't have any more time. I wish that we did.
Love it.
We'll definitely see you next Wednesday, Sharon, but thank you for making it a Big News Wednesday.
No, thank you for that rousing closing speech. Day one, he told us. I love it.
Day one. What happened to day one? Now Biden inflation up. Did he promise? When I get in day one, I'm gonna be blaming Biden for all the problems I cause. It's not what he said. That commercial would have sucked. But anyway, thank you. And thank you everybody for watching. Tomorrow, Francesca will be here. Hopefully we're gonna have a lot of fun. For now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.
welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today, breaking down news of the day, none other than Yasmin Aliyah Khan, Rebel HQ contributor, all-star, and host of the Global Thread podcast. Always fascinating to have her analysis. Top story of the day, hell of a thing. This story is going to make your blood boil. Cops decided to tase and punch a man suffering a seizure at the time for not complying. Here it is.
Let's go. Get out of the car. Get out of the car, dude. Come on. Come on. Let's go. Hey. Stop resisting, bro. Let's go. Let's get out of the car. You're going to get tased. You're about to get tased, dude. We want to help you, but do not fight us. All right. You will get ripped out of this car. Yes, sir. We're not playing you. Get out of the car. Get up. Yes, get out. You're about to get tased, dude. I'm going to get out. Get out then. He's slippery. Where we going? Let's go. Get out of the car. You're about to get tased, dude. Bro, let me get on. Ow! Get out of the car! Dude. Stop fighting! Dude, do not kick. Stop! Stop fighting! Stop fighting! Taser 7. Taser deployed. Still fighting.
Put it up full mass. California, a new lawsuit that claims Hercules cops who were well aware that Mr. Jack Bruce had crashed his car after suffering an epileptic seizure, became enraged when during the seizure, he did not respond to their commands to step out of the car as he went in and out of consciousness. So they decided to taser him repeatedly while punching his face and pulling his hair. Talk about inhumane. Bruce, a tradesman in Local 38 of the plumbers, steam fitters, HVAC and refrigeration union, was driving on Refugio Valley after visiting his grandmother. This happened on April 1st, 2024. He suffered a grand mal seizure for the first time in his life, causing him to lose consciousness and drive down an embankment off the side of the road. One witness ran down the embankment to help him, a good Samaritan, while another witness called 911 and did what? Informed the dispatcher that the man appeared to have suffered a seizure. Here we are. You have an individual in a bona fide health crisis, could have easily been worse. Cops respond, first responders get there. They are supposed to be there to provide aid and assistance. But instead, they make his medical condition significantly worse than before they arrived, according to the lawsuit. The other witness called 911 and expressly told the 911 operator that the plaintiff was convulsing and apparently unresponsive as his vehicle left the road and that he appeared to be having a seizure. The fact that the plaintiff was suffering a seizure was conveyed to the defendant officers both through dispatch communications and the CAD system, known as the CAD system. At 1:07 p.m., defendant Garcia entered the back of the plaintiff's vehicle, leaned forward and attempted to communicate with plaintiff. No success. Plaintiff was exhibiting and continued to exhibit symptoms of the postictal phase of the seizure. Initially, he appeared to be asleep, out of consciousness. Eventually, he recovered minimum consciousness, but did not appear to understand what had happened or even where he was. Now, remember, all of these officers have been through